22 witnesses testified at Donald Trump's criminal trial, but it is one who could really make or break the prosecution's case. Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney and fixer. He was the one, of course, who paid off the adult film star Stormy Daniels to ensure her silence ahead of the 2016 election, and he testified that it was all at the direction of Donald Trump. The key question that we don't know the answer until maybe next week, potentially, is does the jury believe him? My source tonight is Michael Cohen's attorney, Danya, and it's great to have you here. First, we haven't seen Michael Cohen since he left the witness stand. Have you spoken to him? How's he doing?
He's good. He's certainly relieved. He's catching up on sleep. He's taking his blood pressure meds. He's doing well. He, had a rough couple days for sure, and a rough couple weeks and months leading into the trial. So he is now, I can't say he's fully relaxed. He's waiting like everybody else for the jury to return with their verdict. But he's, he's in a good frame of mind, I think. And as am I. I think he handled himself well and has reason to feel good.
And you were there in court every day. I saw you would sit right there behind the prosecution team. When it comes to how his demeanor in court, I think a lot of people were surprised that he was calmer, cooler, and collected than the Michael Cohen that everyone has interacted with for years and knows, certainly reporters and whatnot. Is that something that you spent a lot of time prepping for, or what were those conversations like going into this?
I won't get too deep in the weeds of our conversations, but certainly a lot went into it. As you point out, it's not necessarily his baseline go-to mode, but he had a couple of advantages going into this. He is telling the truth. He has told this truth for 6 years now. He's corroborated by all kinds of data points and pieces of evidence. And so I think he understood, I think I helped him to understand that it was really important that he maintained composure and also presented the same way to the jury, whether he's on direct or cross, or in this case, recross, redirect, and I think recross, perhaps, briefly.
There was a lot of questioning. But on that point, just about something that happened today while we're talking about the jury instructions, one of Trump's attorneys, kind of was told to sit down by the judge because they were arguing that they were being disingenuous and as the judge was phrasing it, saying that they wanted a jury instruction to say, the fact that this entire trial was based on the word of an attorney who worked for President Trump and that he was entitled to draw some inferences from that. It would essentially be an advice of counsel defense, which we learned, before this trial started, they were not going to be able to use. What do you make of that?
I make exactly what Judge Merchan did. They've tried it. They've tried to dress it up in a couple of different ways. Advice of counsel, information of counsel, or general involvement by counsel just kind of hanging around. No matter how you slice or dice it, it's a very specific defense that comes with some consequences. If you are going to try and proffer that defense, then you do have to open up a whole can of worms, including any conversations that the defendant might have had that otherwise would have been privileged. And so it's a very specific defense that you can't just throw in, particularly not the 11th hour, when none of the elements have been established and the other side of it has not been presented.
Obviously, one of the moments, you said it was a rough few days for him. One of the most damaging moments to him that I think everyone would agree was when the defense was asking him about the payment back to the firm that basically he had paid to, or he had rig a poll to boost Donald Trump and to put him higher up in the poll. He admitted that he did not pay them the full amount that he got from the Trump organization. And under cross, Todd Blanche got him to say that, yeah, it was stealing from the Trump organization. Did that moment, stealing, that phrase of it come up when the prosecutors were talking to Michael Cohen?
I also can't the trial is still pending, and so I have to be a little bit careful here. But I will say, whether it came up with the prosecutors or not, I do think they elicited it and drew the sting on direct. But it came up 4 years ago when Michael published his first book, Disloyal. He is the reason the defense have this line of argument is because Michael handed it to them on a silver platter. He admitted in his book that he had stolen this money from the Trump organization. And of course, he gave his rationale for it. He gave it again, that he engaged in some form of self-help because he'd been stiffed. on his bonus. You know, a lot of people would argue that's not, you know, good rationalization, but he is the one who provided this information. So a lot of what they crossed him on are tidbits and pieces of information that came from Michael Cohen. So it's, you know, I understand.
There's also mentioned in that Trump lawsuit, of course, I know that was dropped over, you know, the idea of a deposition. But on that front, I mean, we're hearing from people in Trump's world saying, well, Michael Cohen should be charged here, actually, with stealing.
Well, that ship has sailed. Whatever you might make of the merits of that argument, the statute of limitations has long since expired. I believe it did even before Michael first let the world know about this. But it's not, you know, I understand that the tit for tat argument. That's obviously, as the defense and as it came out both on defense and prosecution, Michael Cohen was not on trial here. He's not even the typical cooperator who has a beef to work off, who has a sentence that he wants reduced. He has served his time. So understood that he has some baggage. I've been involved in hundreds of trials. I've never had a cooperating witness who didn't.
Before we go, do you think that Robert Costello, who was brought on by the defense ostensibly to undermine Michael Cohen's credibility, did more to undermine your client or maybe his own credibility?
Look, it sounds like he was asked a very simple, basic question, and he answered, and then that was immediately dispelled on cross-examination. So I think, you know, this whole notion that he was sent in by Trump and that he was, you know, back-channeling with Rudy Giuliani and Trump, he said no, even though he had the receipts, he had seen the emails, he himself had sent the emails. So I thought it was just a strange gambit, and I certainly thought it backfired, and I certainly thought it bolstered Michael's testimony that he never trusted this guy. And I think the jury saw in full force why he didn't.
Danya Perry, great to have you on. Thank you for joining us as we are all waiting to see what happens next week.